170, 847.37. With that, just to add a little bit to it for clarification, the county share would be 620,057.14. The cities would be roughly 50,790.23. So as you guys are working on your budget and looking forward, that's roughly what it will come out to be.
Okay.
Anyhow, that's my recommendation, is go with papers.
Okay. And what was the open, or the starting and end on those? Was it
September,
September, so next
Yes.
fall.
yes.
Okay.
And that would be perfect because everything should be all ready to go by that time.
And just for clarification again, that city share is from roughly the fairgrounds in there somewhere, that,
About the Big Blue MRD to the soccer field is about 660 feet.
and they have been,
Yes, I have
Part
talked
of the
to James
conversation.
Paul, yes, and I will get back to him now with this so that they can go forward.
perfect. Okay.
Just so everybody's aware, 25th, is that right?
Yes,
And Country Club Avenue,
yes.
and then on the other side of 81 or
Is
the
part
curve.
of Country Club.
Okay, and then what?
Road G out by Clutie Steel.
Okay.
And 25th Street goes from the Big Blue NRD to Delaware. And that's where we stopped.
Because the city takes over again then after that,
Yes.
because they annexed that in
That is
several
the
years ago.
cities from there on over, and we did not go. We thought I thought that would be the best place to stop it, was on the west side of Delaware rather than going through.
Okay,
And then in the future, when Delaware is done and when the city does Delaware, their end of Delaware, the east end of 25th Street, and the county does the north end of Delaware, that intersection can then be addressed at that point in time.
okay. Sounds good. Well, they came in under, I don't know that we announced this, but we were 713,000
Roughly.
was the engineer's estimate, so competitive bidding, so we like to see. Okay,
That was from pavers.
Yes,
what's your wishes?
Move to approve the bid from pavers on the overlay project.
Thank you, Andy.
Second.
Thank you. Any other discussion? Roll call, please, Mary.
Bowman,
Yes.
Sykes.
Yes.
Rhodes,
Yes.
Odd,
Yes.
Overmeyer.
Yes. Thank you, Barbie.
Do we
I'm going to take
need
copies of this
to
and I'll lay them on the
designate
Oh,
that
perfect, thank you.
as coming out of ARPA? How do we do
We
the
have this contract here,
designation?
and we have by the end of the year, we have a,
I think something
fill
to take
out.
motion
Yep.
on.
well,
By
no,
the end of December.
Yeah.
well, by the end of December, we have to have it, but we have the sheet.
Well, I don't
Yes.
think so.
Yes.
Right. So it's nothing that the board has to necessarily make a motion on. It's just a form that we have to file with the
The
powers
government.
that be.
With the
Yeah.
government to say this is where we designate our
Yep.
money.
Okay. Very good.
We'll get you an interlocal agreement too between, so now that we have the final numbers, we'll get an interlocal agreement between the two governing parties, and then that way you guys can sign it, they can sign it, and then that way
Perfect.
we know what funds they're paying,
Right.
and get that all in agreement too, so
Okay,
be able to move forward.
thank you.
Thank you so
Thanks.
much, everybody.
Already laying out
The Country Club Avenue one, we'll just call it Daniel's driveway.
There you go. I tried to get him to go a little
A
farther.
little further, up to Grandpa's house, did you? Okay, next up, we will talk about health insurance for the county. As I've told people, a couple of funnest times a year are wages and health insurance, so. Ben, you're joining us today. You want to come on up? I'll let you kind of start, give a little synopsis if you want, just of the process from your and OCI's side of things, and then we'll kind of go from there.
All right. Well, good morning, Ben Royal with Cornerstone Insurance Group, and the county's health insurance is due January 1, and that's the renewal date. We've been with Medica now for a few years. Medica came in, I believe, 3 years ago with the most competitive bid, and we made the change to them. Last year, they gave a rate increase of around 3-4%, so we just renewed with Medica. This year, their initial offer was a 19.9% increase over the previous year, which then prompts us to go to look to the marketplace and look to see if there's other competitive options. Medica does a nice job of explaining when they issue their renewal as to why they're making the decision, asking for the rate increase, and they're basing that largely off of their loss ratio being over 100, around 110%. So meaning that they were losing money on York County, and none of us here or want to see claims, but people get sick and they can't help it, they don't want to be ill, but that drives the cost of the overall insurance cost. And so that gets it factored in when we go out to bid with other companies. They look at that history and see what is going on within the group, and then they come back either with a offer to quote or decline to offer. The only offer that we were able to get back, we got a few declinations, was Blue Cross Blue Shield, and they were actually higher than what Medica was offering for renewal. And in fact, when Medica issued the renewal a month or so ago, the claims have actually increased from that time to where we're at today. So it's limited us to look out. Although Medica, what we're seeing from a state-wide perspective has been very competitive in the markets. In fact, I know the local businesses I work with, we work with Medica, and they are coming in as the most competitive, and we're rewriting groups or retaining them, most likely in most instances with Medica. They also have a nice feature where they have a preventative drug benefit that is being capitalized on by your employees, and though that was also almost another $75,000 benefit through the first 9-10 months of the year to the employees of York County. So Medica does a nice job. I feel like they are competitive. It's just unfortunate that it is a larger increase, but it's being driven by claims, so I think that it is justified. We were able to negotiate with Medica from a 19.9% increase down to 18. So they almost dropped it 2 percentage points from what their original offer was. So that's where we sit. If we keep everything the same with the dual options that we've got right now, we're looking at an 18% increase for overall on the 2 plans.
So on the county side of things, typically in the past, we had 4 members on the insurance committee. Myself, Commissioner Sykes, the clerk, and who operated as our HR. And this year, we thought it'd be a good idea to open it up and get, involve the handbook committee, because the handbook committee had already been working on the handbook, which will be coming forward in the near future. And if anything, to let those representatives from their respective departments go back to their departments and say, hey, this is what they really go through trying to figure out how to deal with the health insurance. This year we was really one plan showed itself, so we really didn't have the option of trying to pick apart other ones. But Todd at OCI, he did develop a calculator that we could go in and look at each plan. We could put in different defined benefits to each plan and change it to see what we felt like the county could stomach. We did meet as an insurance committee, I believe, we call it an insurance/handbook committee, 3 times, and a lot of good conversation, came out of that. And there is a recommendation that I am pushed forward. I know that in those conversations, our family plan was one that was talked about trying to get it, how do we get it to where more people can afford it. Currently, we have what we call a defined benefit, and for the single employee, the insurance costs $50 a month. For the husband and spouse, it costs $550 a month, and for the spouse or employee and children, it's 500, and then for the family, it's 900. Then it's the same defined benefit on the HSA side, except for the HSAs get a $100 deposit into their HSA account. So this year, we thought about changing things and say, what is the county gonna define their contribution to the insurance plans? And so we was able to put that number in there and then see how it affects our census and the overall costs of the county. So that being said, I do want to talk about some other numbers that since we instituted the $50 for the single, which was back in 2019, when the commissioners made that decision, and we haven't changed it since then. In that time frame, the cost of the insurance to the county has went up on the PPO side, the traditional insurance, has went up right at 28%, and the cost on the HSA side has went up 22%. Now, also during that time frame, we used the W-2 to compile a report, and the wages have went up about 29%. Now, that doesn't account the last ones that we did, because obviously we don't have the W-2s for this year yet. But, so you can see that the county has incurred a lot of cost over the last 4 or 5 years, since we started that $50 on the traditional side of things, on the PPO side of things. And that plan, the way it sits right now, is a $3,000 deductible, where the county also covers $2,000 of the deductible. The employee has $1,000, and then we cover the next $2,000 of that deductible. We had looked into a $5,000 deductible. That really wasn't a lot of savings between 3 and 5, so we chose to leave it at the 3, or recommendation is to leave it at the 3. This board will make the final say on everything. So that's kind of where we're at with what we currently have. Has anybody got any questions, comments, questions for Ben that you might have? And so you know, also we budgeted right at $1.15 million in our new insurance function. We used to have it in everybody's, but now we've drawn the health insurance out of everybody's and put it into one function to maybe keep track of it just a little bit better. Sometimes it's hard for, say, the sheriff's department, the clerk's department, whoever it is. You never know what your employee's going to take, and it can kind of destroy that budget. So we did pull it back and put it in there. And also with that 1.150, we budgeted $50,000 for the HRA, the traditional, that extra $2,000 that we pay for, which, Ben, you have the figures on that also, that how that came out over the last few months. I mean, we don't have a year's on it, but it's about a wash this year, isn't it? The savings, the deductibles that we've paid has ate up the savings this year.
Yes. Yep.
Because of our bad claim year. You know, so, once again, is any questions so far? Andy, you helped with this.
Yeah. I guess
Committee.
One statement I would have from working with the committee is, I guess my personal focus was where are we at compared to who we're competing with for employees? With the exception of the sheriff's department, pretty much everyone that we're competing with is local business, local industry from an insurance standpoint and a total benefits package standpoint. Now you bring the sheriff's department in, they're a little bit more specialized in who they're trying to recruit. So we had to look at the counties, how we rate amongst the counties as well. A lot of really, really good conversations. The thing that kept resonating in my mind with all those conversations is where we're really getting hurt is, from a recruitment standpoint, is the family side of it, especially with the sheriff's departments. I do know for a fact we have lost employees due to our health insurance. In my opinion, where we've been has been out of the market in comparison to who we're competing against. So the meetings we had with the handbook committee, the insurance committee, I think were great. brought a lot of these issues to light, which I think kind of is leading us down the path with the recommendation that Randy's bringing forward today. So I feel really good about the process in totality, I guess.
I did email everybody, if everybody got it and was able to open it up. I did email, once again, that's based on the conversation we had. The committee didn't really fill one of these out as a forward, but the conversation that we had, that they wanted to see the costs in that area. And so I came up with these, with this calculator, and pushed them forward. So, on the employee side, on the traditional, the PPO, there would be $1,000 that would be put forward by the county to cover that insurance. That insurance would cost the county $1,091.42, so that would be $91.42 that would be the employee's cost. So pay period wise, that is taken out of 2 pay periods, that would raise the employee's cost by $20, just over $20 per pay period. The employee spouse would go up. I'm going to start back to the family. The family was one that on the traditional, the number we kept hearing is getting it off of 900, so we lowered it down to 750. And that ended up being in the 26% roughly number. So I figured that one in, so the county share would be 2401.57, and then the employee would be 750 of a 3151.57 policy. Currently we have 5 people on this. So when we look at our vast overall numbers, we have most all of our employees are on single, whether it be HSA or the traditional PPO. When we talk about these family, employee, children, employee, spouse, it's the minimal numbers. That's not to say that they wouldn't grow, they sure might. But so I had that one at 750. And then I used that same percentage number on the employee child and employee spouse. So the employee spouse would have actually went up $50, but the employee child, to keep it in that same percentile, would really go only up $10 over last year. And then when you drop down to the HSA, the HSA employee only, to incentivize employees to consider the HSA compared to the HRA, made that as $1,075, and then in that plan there would be $98.82 that could go back to the employee. Now the employee would have a choice of what to do with it, but their choice would be the HSA. We can kind of dictate a little bit, but it can't be our contribution. It has to be the employee's contribution. Likewise, I went to the family first, and seeing that family number at top on traditional being 750, I put this family plan at 450, which is about the difference in the cost of the overall cost of the package. It went from $31.51 down to $28.18. So take that $300 savings and put it down to make the family insurance, the employees cost $450. Now, the employee spouse, employee child, and employee family, because these numbers are so much lower than last year, would be my recommendation, they would not receive an HSA contribution from the county. Because we would be looking at 450 compared to the 900, 275 compared to the 500, and an employee spouse 320 compared to the 550. So those would not be receiving an HSA under this recommendation payment from the county. Todd at OCI and Ben both visited with me yesterday, and there is a parity rule, but because we would say on the employee only that 9882, that would be their decision, not the county's decision, we can do that under that plan. And then the others would be, there would be no HSA contribution from the county, because the county would be taking a larger share of the policies on the front side. Now conversation.
On, under what you're proposing on the traditional side, are we still planning to, have the HRA of 2,000 contribution?
That's up to this board. That would be my recommendation, but that's up to this board, just like everything. The split it, you mean 1,000, 2,000. There would be a $3,000 deductible on this policy.
But the employee would still only be, on the hook for 1,000.
1,000.
The county would cover the next 2,000.
Yes. And truthfully, after visiting with several different employers, I know Andy we had this conversation a little bit too on the side. Looking at the employee paying 10%, I know it's a hit to the system, but it's a bargain. Most single coverages are way more than 10%. They're closer to the 20%. And you know, this is still under that 10%.
Yep.
But once again, it's a hit to the system. I understand that. But at some point in time, we have to remember the cost increases the county has taken over the last 4 years too.
Right.
So yes, that would be a recommendation, but once again, these are just recommendations.
Was there any, talk on, I guess maybe before I ask that question, is the HSA has a lower, premium.
Yes.
Was there any talk about offering only an HSA?
There was, but that was, you know, it was met with some resistance.
Okay. Yep.
And then I did have those personal conversations on the side where there are people that have our PPO, our traditional plan, that it would hurt them. Now, maybe in the coming years, you know, currently we have 43 on the traditional and 30 on the HSA. If we've seen those numbers switch drastically, maybe we look at that.
Right.
But currently, we felt like we wanted to give them more options, and you know, maybe that was going to help with
Sure.
some of this
Yep.
change. But yes, that was talked about briefly.
The deductible on the HSA is also 3,000
It is by government regs, it goes from 3,200 to 3,300 this year,
this year. Okay.
and that would be completely on the back of whoever
Correct.
takes it.
Correct.
Ben, jump in anytime.
No, that's right, but they're saving the $300 per month on the premium on the family side, which is about $3,600. So $3,600 annually, equate that to the additional risk.
Right.
It's about a wash.
Correct. Yep.
And then
Plus-
the advantage of the HSA is, you know, tax-free in, tax-free out.
Right.
You know, the additional, help me with this number, they can put up to 4,500, I believe,
I think it's
This-
65.
65,
For 24, I believe it's 81.
okay?
Is it that high now?
There's all kinds of numbers getting thrown out here. But you can put additional money in there, and that HSA is yours.
Right. Correct.
Your
So
money.
for a, and this is for 24, so we're really talking 25, but I don't think it'll be lower than this. For a family plan, contribution limits are 8,300. Actually, Google has everything. For 2025, contribution limits are 8,550.
And for the single,
For the single, for 2025 will be 4,300.
okay. So they can put up to that amount in there, tax deferred, and. you know,
Tax free, really. I mean, it's free
Right,
going
tax,
in and
yes,
free
right,
coming out.
right, there is no,
The only time you'd suffer taxation is if you hold on to
Hold out.
it till retirement and then take it out.
so there are some advantages to the HSA, but there's some upfront
Correct.
risks
Sure.
to the HSA.
Sure.
Until you have your account built up.
Right. and for the employee only, if we can, if we continue to contribute $100 a month, in a sense, their deductible really, if they use that money, would be, 2,300. And so, I mean, yes, everybody's situation is different, but there is some advantages to the HSA for the right individual.
And we really feel that our open enrollment period will be here in a week.
Mm-hmm.
And it's education,
Mm-hmm.
is going to be the key to the HSA, whether it works for some or not. And because I think there's probably some just, afraid it's different. There's the assurity of the first one, that's traditional. I mean, you know what it is, you know what your deductible is. That's why I guess we offered both, or decided to keep both on the table. But as you see by our census, we've got, of our 86 total, we got 30, that I have 31 in there. So we have, a portion of them that are in there.
So I played with the calculator a little, put in different numbers. I think that I wasn't included in, the larger discussion. So question I would have on the family side, the 750 on the traditional, was that just because we wanted to get that family plan lower, and through discussion that felt like a target that might be reasonable?
Yeah, we really needed to get that more in line with basically everyone around us,
Sure.
so.
Does so then when I was running my numbers, and again this comes to, some plans work for some people and not as well for others. If we make the HSA fairly attractive, the numbers that I was working with left the traditional not quite down to that 750. Are we feeling that the traditional needs to be down there at that 750? If we have a fairly attractive HSA plan, and I guess maybe if the HSA is attractive, maybe more people will move off of that traditional plan, and it's not necessarily that big of a discussion point, but I just wondered what your...
Yeah, we actually did have a lot of discussion around that. I think the consensus from the employee group is to make the HSA work, even no matter how attractive you have versus our traditional plan, there's a lot of losing the word.
Right, I know where you're going.
Yeah, they've got to play the HSA a little bit closer to make it worth its while. There's just a lot of ease of the traditional plan. There's a lot less headaches. There's a lot less management.
Right.
I do like the HSA from the standpoint it kind of forces the issue of you're more on your own for self-management. You can really make an HSA work to your advantage if you manage it.
Right.
There's a lot of our employees that don't want to have that management piece that they have to worry about.
So are you asking whether we should leave it where it's at?
Right.
At the 900, just to make HSA more
Right.
enticing?
That one scenario that I ran with was leaving the traditional plan cost to the employee the same as it is today. So 50 for employee, 550 for spouse, 500 for the children, and 900 for the family, and then dropping the so the HSA employee was it still at that same that you had, 1,075, and then lowering the employee spouse $100, the employee children $100, and the employee family $400. So the family would be at a $500.
Gotcha.
And comparing that cost to your recommendation, it was similar. Moving some numbers around, that was that, a majority of the families would switch to an HSA, but the employee, the spouse, and the children, I left those census numbers the same, since those premiums didn't change.
Okay.
And so that was where that number came in. Another scenario was similar to what you had done, just hadn't dropped the traditional quite as much, and again, that really came in fairly similar. So I don't know, looking at, but I guess where I was going is how much on the traditional plan, how much of that HRA do we want to continue? But I think the only way that we could change that and still have an offering that was similar, we'd need to probably contribute something to an HSA for each.
Tier.
There you go. Thank you. I was trying to find that word for all of those on the HSA, and so I don't know if that would make sense to do that or not. So let's talk through a little bit more on that, on the employee only on the HSA side, with that what's currently setting at 98.82. That amount for that employee only, so that could be a contribution to an HSA, or it could be cash. Okay.
Well, we could set up the cafeteria plan however we wanted it. The idea would be, how much work do we want to put on, Mary and her staff? You could say, that it could go towards dental or vision. I mean, for simplicity, we would say that there's an HSA, your HSA,
Yep.
we want you to contribute it to your
Yep.
HSA.
Right.
But we could set up the cafeteria. I would say that cash back wouldn't be an option
Sure.
in that. That's,
Yep.
would be our plan as we set it up.
Yep.
Yeah, and essentially it's an insurance gift certificate to use insurance only in some capacity.
Sure.
Leroy, Jack, Leroy,
All I know is the very first thing I was asked to do when I became a commissioner, be assigned a commissioner, was get that family health insurance down. It's killing us by more than one. So, and I think that if people went out and tried to shop on their own for insurance, they'd find out they're all a pretty good deal. And I don't think we want to mess with deductible, because I had to do that with another group of people once, and they consider that a pay cut. And I don't blame them. If they don't use it, it's not, and if they do use it, it is.
Sure.
So,
Jack, anything?
No, I just read your recommendations on your email, and I've got to just go along with what you're talking about there. You're offering two, and they can let them make a choice. It's their choice individually anyway.
We was hopeful that there would be more,
More.
but it just didn't work out for us this year. And hopeful that, we had one thing that presented itself, but it wasn't gonna work for us, and we're hopeful that shows back up next year. It's actually a plan that Brian has, and it'd be nice to get on board with that, because there looked like there was some real savings there. And so, but that didn't pan out. It just so happens we got into a rut and we had a lot of claims. And like Ben said, that those claims are figured on the 12 months prior. So even since we first started talking, we ran into a couple more bad claim months that we even looked worse. I think we started out at 110%. And now the last figure I seen, we were 113% that Medica paid in over what they collected from us. So it's just been a bad year. And we hope there's just one bad year and then we get on to the good years, and we see next year 3-4%. The one thing that everybody I talked to, that I tried to go around and talk to different people, everybody liked Medica. Nobody had any complaints about Medica themselves as a company or how they've handled their prescriptions or their pay or anything like that. So I think we with a good company. It just so happens we had that bad year,
That was evidenced last year by the renewal. I mean, it was a very minimal renewal last
Right.
year, and you guys would have had a much better claim year and the year before. So it's been good.
So I would say that it's really up to us to, today, obviously, we have Medica, that's it. And we just need to hash out what defined contribution the county is gonna make per each. And that way, people know the numbers. Open enrollment is scheduled for next week. Do you know the dates? I'm sorry? Okay, 2nd through the 5th with specific days that they'll be here in the courthouse, specific days they're gonna meet
They'll
with.
be here Tuesday, all day Tuesday, and then Thursday afternoon.
And then at the roads department and
Yeah.
sheriff's department, meeting. So every employee will have to go in on the ease and make their decision, or
If they
it'll
want
just
to.
roll.
Yeah, if they do nothing, then everything just stays the same at the new rates.
Two questions. One, so currently we only have one employee spouse on the HSA. We don't have any employee children or any family, correct? That's what I'm
Is-
seeing.
That's the census I
Right.
have.
I show 4 employee spouse, no employee children, and no
On the HSA.
on the HSA.
So,
This was back when, it was supposed to be this couple months ago.
okay. So, just talking through, if we no longer contribute to the HSA for that tier, the premium cost to the employee is down $230. This is going off of what has been put out there as a recommendation. So that, in a sense, really is more savings than what they were receiving in the
Right.
HSA
Right.
anyway.
And those numbers, once again, I just used a percentage.
Yep.
I had that family number
Yep.
that was really pushed for,
Yep.
and that was 16%, and then I just tuned those into the next 2 levels to come up with that parity of 16%.
So then this is really more of a back end question. The 9882. Is it what is more easy to work with? Do we add the $18 and make that an even $100, or is it easier to have the county contribution at $1,075?
It's just pushing buttons.
It's kind
Right.
of nice when you're talking to employees to talk in round numbers.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's a lot easier to remember, this plan is this and this plan is this when it ends in a round number.
Mm-hmm.
It is easier, but I mean, when it comes to entering into the computer,
Right.
it's,
So I guess would it make more sense to say that if you take the HSA, you have $100?
if you change the county
Right.
defined benefit, which would be the same thing on the defined benefit for the PPO, because you're talking 4571. So either round that down 71 or round that up. Or the 91, 42 per month.
I see, so like,
if you're gonna
if
do
we
number
went,
one, It'd be
91,
the same difference as the other.
and then this would be, right, so then the employee only on the PPO, the defined benefit would be $1,001.42, which would make the, employee cost $90 a month.
Or
And,
you could even cut it to 42 cents, 1,042 cents if you just want to leave it 91.
I see what you're saying, yep. And then the, HSA, the defined benefit would be 1,076.18, which would put that at $100 cafeteria money. Thoughts?
The reason I put the numbers in the way I did is to make them easy for me, so we can make them easy on the other side too. I mean, that's not a problem. Yeah,
I mean,
if for explanation, yeah,
you know,
absolutely.
explaining to an employee,
It doesn't move the needle that much.
Right, exactly,
Absolutely.
exactly.
the one reminder I want to add that I haven't heard discussed is the fact that on either plan, preventatives are still paid 100%.
Right.
So when you're
right.
going in for those preventative visits, you're not paying anything on either side.
And, to clarify a little bit too, the goal was to make the family more attractive. But, there was another goal too, the county has just incurred so much cost over the last 4 or 5 years. And, as I've talked to other employees for other businesses, every year they look at their paycheck and think, well, did I get a raise or didn't I get a raise? Because that business incorporated the increase of the insurance on a yearly basis. And we have eaten them the last 4 years, and maybe we should relook at the way we do that, to make it just minimal, or what seems to be that every year. But, to me, if you get an 18% one year and 4% the next year, and to review it every 4 or 5 years is probably okay. But yeah, there's some employees I've talked to that, the insurance goes up, got a raise, it's about a wash, but insurance goes up.
Right.
So it's just it's a more of an expensive product, so. But yes, the overall conversation was heard to get the family, try to get the family cheaper.
Right.
Try, and
I think that the work that the insurance committee has put in to do that has paid off. Looking at the numbers, yes, it's an increase, and yes, it hurts on the budget. It's more than what we budgeted for, but I think that the numbers that you've come up with are both workable on the back end, and I think that it should be attractive to the employees to show that we want to continue to make our offerings attractive to them.
well, remember on the budget, we have employees that don't come out of this budget.
Sure,
So
I
the
see.
the
Right.
call center
Yep.
doesn't come out of this budget. Visitors Bureau doesn't come out of this budget, and juvenile diversion doesn't come out
Yeah.
of this budget. So there is 14 or so employees right there that doesn't come out of that 1.150. They come out of their own.
Yep.
Because, obviously the call center, we share with the city.
Sure.
Visitors Bureau, we take out of that money, and juvenile diversion is out of the grants.
Okay.
So that, I don't foresee the shortfall. We're gonna use it.
Right.
But I don't foresee
Right.
an overall shortfall.
Sure.
Because of those numbers.
Yep, okay, yep.
You writing all this down?
Uh,
You're gonna wait and read what those two wrote and write it down?
I make a motion to approve Randy's recommendation with 2 changes. the per month employee cost on the traditional plan, move it to $90, and move the employee-only HSA stipend to $100.
Can I have you add to that,
Sure.
continuing the
Yeah.
HRA contribution in traditional? And I don't know how you want to word the HSA one.
Yes, and to continue the HRA contribution and to discontinue the HSA contribution from the county.
I think that works.
Discontinue HSA
Discontinue HSA contribution.
contribution and continue
The HRA.
with HRA contribution.
Yes. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
There's a second. Any other discussion? Once she's done writing,
Okay.
Mary, roll call, please.
Bowman,
Yes.
Groats,
Yes.
Ott,
Yes.
Sykes,
Yes.
Obermeyer.
Yes.
It's your.
I do want to thank everybody that sat in on those meetings. I want to thank Ben and Todd, and especially Todd for that calculator. Now that we have that, we can keep that
Yeah,
feature
right.
and play with it again. And we will move forward with open enrollment next week. The letters Cheryl has ready to go out.
The letters have gone out.
The letters have gone
Let
out.
them know about the dates.
And we will remind them again about open enrollment next week. And we will put this to rest for a year. Thank you, Ben.
Thanks, Janice. Thank you.
Okay, gentlemen, we are at the end of our agenda.
Yeah, exactly.
And which means we have committee reports to do. If somebody has something to report,
Yes. Blue Valley had their year-end meeting here in York last Monday night. We did elect a new chairman to that organization. His name's escaping me. And then also spent some time with Gary and Tristan and a cast of others working on the grants, the juvenile grants in specific. So I think we got a good start on those projects. I'm really glad to hear that Gary got his COSEP grant, because that will allow all of us to marry together the proper way. So I think it'll give us the ability as a county to make a really lasting program that I think will pay long-term dividends. So that's all I got.
Dan?
YCAC full board meeting is at noon today. I think that's about all. I have attended the planning and zoning meeting last Monday. So there was some discussion, and I think there will continue to be discussion.
Go ahead, Jim.
Jack?
Okay, well, we had the veteran service meeting right after our last commissioners meeting. And then we had the aging meeting right after that, basically. And we didn't have a quorum in either one of those meetings, so we really didn't accomplish a whole lot.
Okay. That, go ahead. Is that everything,
Go
Jack?
ahead, Deputy.
I went to Region 5 and a PACE, and we were trying to finish so that we could get a piece of paper to sign that says, yes, we'll do this, for interlocal agreement and bylaws. We had one party that their county lawyer, unlike ours, which agreed it was all okay, that said, oh, I don't like this wording. Well, what happened was when we agreed on the interlocal agreement, Lancaster County decided they wanted a line put into the bylaws. Well, that other county did not like, I don't want to finger point people out, didn't like that line in that bylaw. So I asked a question at the meeting and they said, you're correct. And so I voted for the interlocal agreement, but I voted need to get that line out of the bylaws. So I had some people unhappy with me for doing that, but 14 out of the other 16 counties. So I was like, I'm sorry, why should they get to say, because it said something the legislature isn't currently doing. They wanted to say that we had to pay according to legislative statute. Well, there isn't that. We can pay or not pay, so why have the line in there? A whole bunch, I think, just want to go on, get it done, move on. And I was like, no, they shouldn't be able to put that in, because what if the legislature says we do have to? And we have that line in there for that group, well, then we're obligated. So that's why we haven't received anything from Region 5 and a pace to sign, because they're haggling over one line in an agreement. But anyway, so that was my fun, and that's exactly what it was. That was my fun meeting to go to.
Okay. Is that everything, Leroy? Couple letters from NERMA. We did get our check. Every year we tend to get a check back, so we did get that check back for $15,685 that was deposited back into the general account. It's not a lot, but it's better than nothing. And then the other letter from NERMA is there's a board position opening up. If anybody's interested in that, they can contact NERMA about that. I assume that it's opening up. I did not read all the way through the letter, but a lot of times elections play a part in boards opening up as we, one of our neighboring commissioners did not get back on. There's change over in Seward County. Polk County stayed the same as far as I know. The others all stayed the same as far as I know. So that took place last couple of weeks. A lot of insurance conversations, not just with the meetings, but with Todd and Ben. Did attend the zoning. We need to give, I think, the zoning board, I really like the fact that the zoning board's going to meet on the third Monday now. But I think after sitting through the meeting, a little bit of direction needs to be given for some questions, because I'm not sure, there was questions, but I don't know that the right ones were asked. Because, during the meeting, as we heard, they were talking about just tossing it back up to us without addressing some things. So I think that there needs to be a conversation there also.
I think in that meeting, there's a lot of expectations that Marvin was going to do more than what they did.
Right. And they talked about the comp, not about the other.
Correct.
Yeah, so I think we need to address that with, and I know that our zoning administrator that next morning was on the hook for a first ever jury trial. So a lot of things going on. So we will address those. I think we need to come up with a list of questions that it sounded like was there, but didn't really get asked. So we need to talk about that.
For its worth, I did reach out to Keith last week about some of that as well. So
Yeah.
I'm trying to address some of that now.
And I expect he'll be here at the next one. I sure hope we give him enough warning that somebody, him or John, can be here for that. We did find out through the extracting a window upstairs and putting it back in that we've got issues with the windows, with the seals, and those are not replaceable. They don't really make them anymore, so those numbers will be coming forward, and I'm guessing they'll be staggering. Because take a walk around the building, there's a whole lot of windows on the second floor. So, yes, so that will be coming forward. I did have a conversation this last week, and I don't know if anybody has been driving around the country or not, but there's a staging area down by McCool that the pipeline is setting up in. They also utilize a place here in town that's out on Nobes Road, amongst, I guess, other places too. So I did have a conversation with John from Tallgrass. Right now, the way it turned out, they was able to acquire 100% voluntary easements across all that. Currently, 82% of vegetation has been cleared on the pipeline through York County. 68% has been graded, and 9% is laid out, and 5% is boring. He did say that they are working that project from south to north. And he also said that his communication with the roads department has been very good, and everything has been working fine. I know that harvest is over, which is a good thing, because there's a lot more traffic out there now. They do have a haul route, but we spoke just briefly about that, about just remembering guys are still hauling corn, and, you know, that just be respectful of everybody. But as I drove around, it looked like they were doing the right thing as far as entrances to the fields. You know, I wondered down here, there was a whole stack of big, like extra long timbers, and they're using those for entrances into fields. And so apparently, they're trying to be good stewards. Whether you're for it or not, it's here, it's coming through. The sooner they get through, the better, you know. So you can go out and look. It's just a couple miles east of town. There's a lot going on.
I also had a conversation with John. I did.
Did you?
Yeah. I guess the only other thing we talked about, I did address an issue that I'd heard come up through the countryside of some aggressive driving
Oh,
by
okay.
their trucks. So he's gonna take that up, and that's also something I have talked to our county sheriff's department about as well. And I did make John aware that they have also been notified of that, so.
Yeah, that would be I mean, not to split hairs, but it'd be a private contractor that Tallgrass has hired, I assume. Because
Correct,
I think
yes.
they just own the pipeline and
Correct.
hire everything done.
Yes.
So he was gonna address that then also? Good,
Yeah.
good deal. Okay, Mary, do you have anything? Mary's gonna leave us. Yeah, she's ready to go. She wants to go where it's warmer. Okay, anybody else have anything else that they've thought of? Thank you, gentlemen. Oh, I do. Jack, swearing in is not till the first Thursday after the first Tuesday. So you will have to make the first meeting of January.
I know, I talked
Did
about
that break his heart,
I did,
or
I
what?
told him
Where are
this
you at?
morning.
I'm guessing.
I told him this morning, I'm like, yeah, you're gonna have to be here.
Yeah,
I don't know if
The
that's
first
what I
meeting
want.
is the
You're telling him, I said, I'm
6th.
not telling him.
so the first meeting is like the 7th, but it's the swear-in's the first Thursday after the first Tuesday.
We need to talk about Neppers.
Neppers,
Neppers,
okay,
Nebraska's
right,
retirement system.
okay.
Because